Imagine walking through the shadows of a broken world, where cruelty has no limits, and mercy has long been forgotten. You stumble upon a body, twisted, unrecognizable, mangled by torture so brutal that you question if the hands behind it were even human. That's where this story begins. This is Nightmare Manga. Alan carried a heavy burden, one that haunted his every breath. Yet when he found her lying there, discarded like a piece of trash, his heart cracked open. An elf, stripped of everything, waiting for God to finally take her life and end her misery. But fate had something else planned, something neither mercy nor death could predict. It all began with something simple, a band-aid on a child's scraped knee and a soft voice saying, "Everything will be all right." The child smiled, grateful, and ran away with joy. That same man, the healer known as Alan the Apothecary, watched the moment fade into the crowd. But he wasn't there for small wounds that day. He was searching for something far darker. As he walked through the old pawn bazaar, a hoarse voice called his name. The shop owner, an anxious man, motioned him inside. Alan hesitated but followed. The man's tone was shaky, troubled. "Someone left me something I can't handle alone," he said, his eyes darting nervously. When he opened the door, the world seemed to stop. Alan froze. His breath caught. Lying on a blood-stained cot was the elf. Her body, a collection of scars, bruises, and open wounds. Her skin was pale, lifeless, her ears ripped and pierced over and over, her teeth torn out, her left eye gone. She looked less like a person and more like a corpse that had refused to die. "She was used," said the pawn owner coldly, "drained, then discarded, worthless now, unless you can use her for medicine." Alan's heart twisted. His hands trembled. The man continued, "Her body could fetch a price, you know. You could make something valuable out of her. Decide. Now." Alan knelt beside the girl. With trembling fingers, he used his magic to assess her. The infection had spread deep into her flesh. Gangrene was eating her alive. Her breath was shallow, her pulse barely there. And then, she whispered, "I want to go home." That whisper shattered something inside him. Rage exploded within Alan. He clenched his fists, his voice shaking with fury. "I'll take her," he said. "She's coming with me." The pawn owner laughed bitterly. "You? You'll carry that dying thing over a mountain? You're insane!" Alan ignored him. He covered the elf gently with a cloth, his voice soft but firm. "You're safe now. I'll hold you. I won't let you fall." She didn't move, didn't react. Her silence was worse than death. It was as if her soul had forgotten how to exist. He lifted her frail body onto his back and began the long walk home. The path was steep and cold, the wind sharp as knives. He tried to speak to her, to give her something to hold on to, but no reply ever came. By nightfall, he reached the mountain's crest. The stars watched silently as he set her down to rest. Her face caught the soft glow of the dying sun, and for a moment, Alan thought he saw life flicker in her expression. Maybe it was because elves once lived in forests, breathing the language of trees and wind. Maybe she felt a fragment of home. Alan cooked something soft, easy to swallow since her teeth were gone. When he held a spoon to her lips, she hesitated, then ate. Slowly, painfully, but she ate. After feeding her, Alan whispered, "Was it good?" She didn't answer, but a tear slipped down her cheek. That night her condition worsened. Her breathing grew ragged, her body burning with fever. Alan worked tirelessly, mixing herbs, crushing stones, adding honey and salt to dull the bitterness. "Don't give up," he pleaded. "Stay with me." He made her drink the medicine, then pressed a damp cloth to her forehead. "You'll go home," he promised softly. "I'll take you there. She drifted into sleep, her fragile chest rising and falling. Alan sat beside her, whispering to himself, "I said she'd go home. But what does that even mean?" He knew the truth. It was his kind, humans, who had destroyed her life. The world might have ended the war 8 years ago, but hatred hadn't ended with it. He saw the ghosts of those he'd killed in the war, hands crawling from the earth, clutching at his legs, dragging him down. He woke up drenched in sweat, the sun rising over his guilt. Beside him, the elf stirred. Her eye glimmered faintly, catching the morning light. Alan smiled, exhausted but hopeful. "Good morning," he said gently. "We're going to make you better." He didn't know how, but he would try. He named her Resser, a name filled with meaning. "You will be reborn," he said, gripping her cold hand. "I promise." When they finally reached his home, Alan whispered, "This is your new home, Resser." He set her down carefully and realized she needed a bath and clothes. She had none. He rushed to his neighbor, a kind woman, and her daughter, Moan. The little girl ran to the door. "It's the apothecary, uncle," she laughed. Alan smiled weakly. "I need a favor." Soon he returned with clean water and old garments. He helped Resser undress, keeping her dignity covered. Her body was a map of suffering, long, cruel scars twisting across her back. The whip marks, the burn wounds, the bruises, they all told stories of torment. Alan's hands shook as he washed her. "How could anyone do this?" he whispered. He treated her wounds with care, using herbal ointments and enchanted bandages. Every stroke of his hand was both healing and apology. When she was finally clean and dressed, she looked almost human again. Beautiful, fragile, and broken. Later, he noticed her trembling, embarrassed. For the first time, emotion flickered on her face. Alan smiled gently. "Even pain can't erase who you are," he thought. Over time, he made her soft meals, fed her, talked to her, and crafted a set of artificial teeth so she could eat again. He even smiled as he said, "Today we celebrate your new teeth, Resser." As he fed her a piece of steak, she trembled, her ears twitching with delight. Tears streamed down her face. For the first time, she ate not to survive, but to live. Alan's heart warmed. "Being able to eat makes you happy, doesn't it, Resser?" But peace never lasts long in this world. Days later, she suddenly coughed blood, collapsing to the floor. Her body convulsed violently, veins turning black. Alan's eyes widened. He recognized the pattern. Obsidian spider venom. The pawn owner's cruelty had gone beyond torture. They had poisoned her, ensuring death would come later, slow and cruel. "No, I won't let you die again," Alan shouted, grinding herbs, mixing elixirs, praying for a miracle. He made her swallow a mixture of charcoal and magic essence. Moments later, she vomited a dark pill, a cursed object that had been dissolving inside her. Alan stared at it in horror. The runes carved on its surface glowed faintly, a curse designed to destroy her from within. He crushed it with his bare hand, fury burning in his veins. He rushed to prepare an antidote, but knew he needed the original venom. That meant facing the obsidian spider itself. Before leaving, he told Moan's mother, "If I don't return in 3 days, give her a proper burial. Don't let her die forgotten." Moan tried to be brave. "You'll save her, Uncle Alan. I know you will." With his bow and limited supplies, Alan descended into the cave of nightmares. The air was damp, suffocating. His steps echoed off stone walls as he followed the web-laced tunnels. And then he saw it, the spider. Massive, black as death, eyes glowing like molten coals. He aimed his bow, but his hand shook. Memories flooded back. The war, the people he'd killed, the power he'd sworn never to use again. But Resser's face flashed in his mind. He steadied his hand. The arrow glowed blue with lightning. "For her," he whispered, and released. The arrow struck true. Light burst across the cavern, thunder echoing through stone. The spider screamed once, then fell still. Alan collapsed to his knees, gasping. "Wait for me, Resser," he murmured. He extracted the venom gland and began crafting the antidote. By the time he returned, his hands were bleeding, but his heart burned with determination. He injected the antidote into her arm. "Sorry for making you wait," he whispered. "You'll be okay now." Hours later, her breathing slowed. The fever broke. The red marks on her chest began to fade. Alan watched over her all night, praying in silence. At dawn, she opened her eye. For the first time, she whispered, "Light." Alan froze. "You can see?" Her lips trembled. "I can feel that you're there." Tears filled his eyes. "Then that's enough." Her pupils reacted faintly to the light. The antidote worked. Alan smiled through exhaustion. "You're safe now, Resser." She began to cry softly. "Reeser is my name?" Alan nodded. "It is now. I gave it to you." "I don't remember anything," she said, shaking her head weakly. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "That's okay. You'll remember what matters someday." She smiled faintly, a real smile this time. "Thank you for everything." Alan's voice broke. "No, Resser, thank you for surviving." And as sunlight spilled across the room for the first time, she didn't flinch from it. Her world, once drowned in pain, had begun to heal. This isn't just a story of torture and survival. It's a story of rebirth, of light crawling out of endless darkness, of one man's desperate attempt to save a broken soul, and in doing so, save himself. Because sometimes the monsters we fight aren't out there. They live within us. And sometimes mercy is the only kind of magic left. This is Nightmare Manga.